Hello, I'm here at the Fieldhouse kitchen, which is not normally where I film, I realize that, but we had kind of a time crunch and I'm just looking to get some stuff out. The last 2 weeks have been insane. I haven't been able to update. In fact, I tried to film this video four or five times yesterday and never actually got the chance to finish it because of all the stuff that was going on. But basically, this is the next modern Marvel, and as I mentioned in the last one, the reason why I kind of split it into two was because this one was going to have much less to do with Marvel and more to do with DC Comics. Um, and that it's still going to go in the modern Marvel playlist because that's kind of my forum to talk about this sort of thing, but it's not actually going to deal with Marvel itself. There's this belief out there that I just for some reason don't like DC Comics. That's actually not true. Like I brought down an example to prove that I do in fact own um, Marvel comic or DC comic books. Uh, this is a Nightwing one. Actually, I really like Nightwing. I know that that places me in a somewhat small category, but I do actually like Nightwing. Probably because I'm too hipster to like Batman, so I just want the knockoff version of Batman or something. But at any rate, brings me to what I wanted to talk about, which is Gotham. And I wanted to make a video about Gotham too, to kind of publicly state a few things about that show. First off, I feel like I should admit when I saw this, I don't really follow anymore what DC does behind the scenes. Like you said, it's Marvel doing X, Y, or Z. I can say, well, they've revealed this that they're planning on doing, or they've talked about this. This is the trailer that's out. I don't really do that with DC Comics. Um, Again, not necessarily because I hugely dislike them, but I feel like for the last 10 or so years, they've not really been worth watching that closely. Um, and the interesting side note, though, I did notice, as I mentioned on my feed, that when I saw the commercial for the premiere of Constantine coming out, it was like DC character. I was like, oh, so they've finally gotten desperate enough that they are going to claim Vertigo characters. It was just, I wondered when we would hit that point. Apparently, we're there. So that's, hold out hope for that Sandman show, but I don't, they're not gutsy enough to do that. Plus, that would make a horrible show. I digress. Okay, so point being, um, Gotham, I first just saw the splash. It said Gotham. It's the show that's coming out. And I thought initially, I was like, oh, are they going to do with this what they do with, like what Marvel did with S.H.I.E.L.D., where they're drawing everything together and having that show that's going to catch some of the loose ends, that's going to introduce some of the characters, uh, move the universe along in between the movies, keep people actually interested in the movies while you're waiting the years for them to come out. And obviously, Batman's being recast and re-put in, and it's a different Batman than that whole series. So it's like, okay, well, this could, you got to figure Ben Affleck's not gonna be a TV show, but I don't know. I was really kind of like, be interesting. I'll be interested to hear more information. Well, then they started putting out all the whole, this is Gotham before Batman. The premiere is going to have uh, the Wayne murder in it, and it's going to be about Gordon. And I was like, that's dumb. I don't understand why I would watch a Batman movie without Batman in it, or a Batman show without Batman in it. And it just, who cares about Gordon? Let's be honest. He's not like, it's not like he's some beloved character who doesn't normally have his own comic line who you could make that kind of thing about. I mean, even the characters who do fall in those fringe categories are hard to make people feel vested in. Look at Daredevil, for instance. Not to say that there's not a love for Daredevil or Punisher out there. And granted, on one level, that's a bad example because those movies weren't that good. But people didn't care. You can't get people vested in that. Ghost Rider, another example. Again, movie not that good, But at the same time, I think it goes to show part of the reason why it's not good is you don't have that to pull from. And that's even, those are at least real characters who have real comic lines who people really care about. Gordon doesn't fit any of that. And so I'm like, no, this seems like DC trying to play catch up, and it seems like a bad idea. But again, so I was operating under the assumption though that this falls before the new movies that are coming out, and but it's going to build, and the Batman who's in, the Bruce Wayne, the young Bruce Wayne, is the Bruce Wayne who is going to be in Batman vs Superman. That's apparently not the case, which is fine. It's probably actually better that way. But at the same time, I feel like it's both a good thing and a bad thing because you miss out on an opportunity to do some of the good stuff that's like happening in Shield, but at the same time, it does keep everything separate. And if you're just one, a Batman show, this is going to be a better avenue to do that if you keep it separate from those movie releases and all that. Also, to the best of my knowledge, it is not tied into the Arrow or Flash show, and those two shows are tied together. I think they're even on different channels. Again, I don't follow DC, so I watched Arrow for a while and then just kind of stopped. Not because it was bad, but just because I didn't follow it anymore. But anyway, to get back to Gotham specifically, so I reached this point. I finally had all the facts in my hands. I'm like, okay, new show. It's about Gordon, blah blah blah, and I watched the pilot episode because I was like, well, it is Batman. We'll see what's happening. And actually, I was very impressed with the pilot, more so than I definitely thought I was going to be. And to mention something that the show did really well, this was actually, I think, one of the best Bruce Wayne Batman origin stories that we've had in a really long time. Definitely on the screen. Because it always struck me as weird. Bruce Wayne's parents, the Waynes, are supposed to be these pillars of the community, these big, rich philanthropists. Everybody knows them. Everybody knows Bruce kind of people. Then how come their deaths were never? It was a big deal to Bruce, but it never seemed like it was a big deal to Gotham. And this show did, I think, a much better job. And in part because they showed it from that police side of things, where it's like, no, this was a big deal to everybody. This was a huge thing. The death of the Waynes set stuff in motion. The death of the Waynes, caused a lot of things. It was the result of a lot of things, and just how tangled that would actually be. And so again, I thought that was actually a good twist, and I liked how you had the DA and the mayor, they're breathing down the police chief. So why isn't this crime solved yet? Get me somebody in here, solve this crime. It always struck me as weird that they catch, like in Batman Begins, they catch the guy who did it, and wait, he doesn't stand trial for presumably 10 years or something. It was weird. And I thought this was actually much more realistic, and it gave the show a more realistic feel. It's like, oh, this could be a realistic cop show if you're going to have this kind of stuff going on. What it didn't do, while I liked the parts that had Bruce in it, to me it still didn't answer that question of, it's a good episode, it sold me on episode 2, it's a good pilot, it sold me on episode 2, but it didn't answer that question of, why am I watching a Batman show that doesn't have Batman in it? That's still my nagging question at this point. So, to his credit, I'll give a shout out to James. James was like, no, dude, don't worry. It'll be cool. It'll be cool. What? How can you just say, it's got Catgirl in it? It'll be cool. Okay. That's like me saying X3 is a good movie because it has Angel in it. Maybe not quite that bad, but it's definitely in that ballpark. It's the exact same literal argument. You can't just slap a character in there who I personally like and say, oh, so it's going to be good. And plus, I'm not even a huge fan of Catwoman. But at any rate, that was his take on it. The show was going to be good if I just watched it. So I watched episode 2, and episode 2 did a lot of good things for me. I'm too old. I don't have the time to mess around with shows. I'm not giving them chances. If you can't, I'm not waiting for you to set stuff up to be good later. It needs to be good now. And the episode 2 did that. It was like, hey, look, this is a great episode. And it really, what it did for me, well, Catwoman wasn't selling me the show per se. I suddenly realized, oh, look, they're giving us a lot of Bruce Wayne. they're giving us Alfred and Bruce Wayne growing up, and oh, this show will have Batman in it. Now, not in the way that we normally would see Batman, but definitely has him, and he's figuring stuff out. Like, he's an active character, and that went so far for selling me the show to me. But again, it was like, well, it could just be one episode. Let's see what happens. Incidentally, the kid, just to give props, I normally don't like child actors. But the two main child actors in this show, Bruce Wayne, the kid who plays Bruce Wayne, and the kid who plays Catgirl, both do a really good job. The guy who does Bruce Wayne does it a little bit better, but that's primarily just because maybe not that he's necessarily doing a better job, but I think Bruce Wayne is a harder character to play than Catgirl, at least the way it's written in this show. I mean, Bruce Wayne is actually a very hard character to play, and even without the Batman side of it coming in. So I definitely thought, and to play him that young, I definitely think he's doing a great job. So throw out, kudos where it's due. If you want to see some good child acting, in my mind, this is a decent show to do it in. But really, when I look at it, after you had the pilot, you had episode 2, and then the third episode, which is the weather balloon. If you haven't seen the show at this point, I mean, I am going to be discussing stuff that happens in it. The spoiler: Bruce's parents die. By the way, in case you didn't know that, and Bruce Wayne is Batman. In case you didn't know that either. But I'm just going to be talking about the show. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to actually go watch it. It's still on Hulu at this point. It's definitely worth watching it before you watch this video. Episode 3 is the weather balloon, and that episode was the episode that sold me this show, and for a very specific reason. I was watching that episode, I was enjoying it so much, and I was chatting with my friend Daniel, who, as I mentioned, will join me from time to time on this channel. I'm like, this is incredible. Why do I like this? And I realized this is Batman the Animated Series. This is the old WB Batman TS, and they have that feel to it. Now it's a little more adult, so I mean, you're gonna have things that weren't in that. There's character death, which was something you didn't see in the WB Batman was pretty edgy, but where it had. Even though Batman isn't in it, that feel of, okay, what is Batman? Batman is supposed to be the world's greatest detective. Like, that's his thing. He's smart. He figures this stuff out. You never saw that, like, for example, in the Batman trilogy that just recently came out. Oh, and there's going to be people, oh, yeah, you see him do this. No. What you saw him do wasn't figure things out. You saw him have a machine that when he shot a bullet, he magically could pull fingerprints off of it and find a guy. Like, he had God machines. He didn't figure things out. In the animated series, he had to figure stuff out, to a cheesier extent back with the old Biff Pow show. I mean, he figured stuff out there, but really the animated series, I think, is where you see that Batman was just brilliant. He could figure that kind of stuff out, and you're seeing that in this. You're seeing it both from Bruce as a character. You're seeing it from the cops when they have to figure out cases and charge them and, prosecute them and stuff like that. So you're seeing that angle, which is really a part of what I think of Batman. That's probably why I did not like that Batman trilogy as much as some people did, because I loved that animated show so much, and I loved that concept of what Batman was supposed to be about, and this show has that. And yeah, it's a little cheesy. Same thing. I mean, you're talking about the genre where Batman gets put in a death trap every time, and with ample time to escape, and cuts the ropes and all that. That's the genre that this falls into. It's that. Yeah, it's going to be dark, it's going to be a little edgy, but it's going to definitely be that silliness as well, where you have a guy killing people with weather balloons. Why would you do that? I mean, it makes no sense on one level. On another level in the show, they make it awesome. And that's where, like I said, at that point, at the end of episode 3, I realized this show has elevated itself to where I will give it chances. I will let this, and frankly, like, I wasn't thrilled with the last episode. But it's made it far enough in my mind that's like, but I'm going to give it that. I'm going to give it that, and I'm going to go to the next episode, because the show is doing it for me right now. It is showing me that it is worthy of my time. And so really for me, that's the third episode is where, not that the first two weren't good, they were both great, but the third episode is what locked it in for me, and that's where I realized, oh, I'm watching this show until they pull it off the air. So that's kind of then like I said, we've had some good episodes since. There've been some really good episodes. This most recent one that I've watched, which by the time I put this up still should be the most recent episode, which was The Spirit of the Goat. It wasn't a bad episode. It wasn't at all. Um, and the hypnosis bent. I don't know if they're going to try to make that girl into the Mad Hatter or something. But it was definitely, again, it fell into that category of late season Batman the Animated Series. It had that feel. The one thing that I wasn't necessarily thrilled with was the end, and it's because they're maybe doing things different than how I might initially approach it. I do like how they've dealt with the Penguin so far, but I'm not sure if that's gonna. And part of that plays into the one thing that I don't like that's coming up later. But I mean, long and short of it, the show's been solid all the way through for me. I've given every episode a positive review in my mind, um, with sillier moments in some of them that I was like, really? And I'll explain why in a little bit. So let's talk about real fast about what I think the show does right, and then what I think the show does wrong, and that'll give me an idea of if I'll stop liking the show or not. Maybe not whether or not you'll like the show. I already mentioned child acting. The acting's been superb all around, uh, by and large. Um, the secondary characters are doing well. So far, I was concerned in the pilot because they were kind of throwing, for lack of a better word, fan service at you. It's like, oh look, we'll have a girl standing next to a plant with red hair and call her Ivy, and you're supposed to go gaga over that. And I was like, if the whole, and there was a couple other things in the pilot that I was watching. Well, for example, even Nigma, when they threw him in there, and I was like, really? Is this the kind of show this is gonna be where I'm supposed to, wet my pants every time you make an allusion to a Batman comic? They fortunately kept Enigma in strong enough that he's been a solid piece of the puzzle. Same with a lot of the other characters who I wasn't sure they were going to do that with. Catgirl did not even have a line in the pilot. She maybe had one or two. And I was just like, is this a throwaway character? Are they really not doing anything other than just trying to sell me on the fact that Catwoman is in this? Um, so those are some of the things that it's definitely done well. Is it's steered clear of that. It has gotten close, but it hasn't done it so much that it's annoyed me yet. And I'm sensitive to it because of things like the X-Men, which the X-Men movies were infamous for that. They would throw you these little things like that was supposed to take care of your desire to see. Well, we won't show Gambit on screen, but we'll throw his name in a pop-down box. Which, given what happened when they did later show Gambit on the screen, might have actually been a blessing. But I digress. So that's been good. The stories, I feel like I said, the tone has been spot on. It is literally the live action Batman the Animated Series in my mind. There's just so much intrigue, so much of what it makes Gotham feel like a real city. It takes those characters the same way that they were in Batman the Animated Series, where you could just. I know I keep alluding to that. I'm sorry. That's a great show, and it just has that tone and that feel for me, which I think makes this show. It's what gives it that old style Batman. If maybe you liked the new Batman trilogy, maybe you didn't. I mean, I didn't particularly care for it, but if you liked it, then this might be something that makes you say, "Oh, this is what the Batman world was more about." Okay, I see. If you were somebody who, like me, was kind of watching, was like, "This is really shallow for Batman." I think this starts to take you back, and hopefully will continue on that track where it takes you back to the deeper Batman. Um, so those are, again, like I said, some of the things it does good. Some of the things that I don't like as much, and they are there. I don't want to gush about this show. There are some stuff. Major things come to mind. I don't know what the problem is with modern shows that kind of fall into this genre, because come to think of it, they all are in this genre. Um, let's say, for instance, Shield season one, we could debate it, but I'm going to say the main character, the protagonist, the one who I was supposed to sympathize with theoretically, I think was Skylar, the girl. Grimm, obviously Nick is supposed to be the guy you're supposed to sympathize with. This Gordon is supposed to. The main characters in these shows, for some reason, can never seem to be written well. I don't care about Gordon at all. I love this show. I've been ranting about how awesome this show is for 19 minutes, and I'll tell you right now, I don't like Gordon. He's boring. I don't care about him. I care more about his partner. His partner is awesome, by the way. In the episodes where he's well written, he's awesome. and there was like two or three where he was phenomenal. He as an actor is great. He as his character is generally great. Um, but Gordon, I don't care for, and like I said, Nick, I don't care for. I don't know what it's been about these modern shows like this, sci-fi shows that I don't, not really sci-fi, but you follow me, where I don't care for the main character. He doesn't do anything for me. Perhaps it's because of my other beef in a show that's actually given me several really interesting female characters with Fish, who I don't particularly care for, but like her as a character, but at the same time, decently written and like a strong, active character. You know, Catgirl, when they started bringing her more in, wow, okay, she's pretty interesting and doing pretty good. Barbara is all, every cliche you can think of. Like, and it just grates and bugs me how in shows or movies like this, you'll have the person like when she's saying to Gordon, "Oh, promise me you'll be safe," and he doesn't. He doesn't promise, and so she's all. And it's like he's the only non-corrupt police department officer in one of the highest crime cities in the world, and you're telling, "Can you? Why can't you promise me you'll be safe?" Because it's not a safe job. If you wanted somebody who was going to have a safe job, why did you start dating a police detective in the Gotham City Police Department? Or later, like, because of things I've done in my life, or, people who I have closer relationships to, who who have classified things that, it's like you don't talk about it, and you don't ask about it. And if you can't deal with that, like, it bugs me when you have these characters like, well, why won't you tell me this? Why are you keeping secrets from me? Look, okay, maybe you're the kind of person who can't handle that. Okay, that personality I'm sure exists. It shows up in movies enough. If okay, great. But if you're that kind of person, why do you get involved in a relationship with somebody who you know is in a world where they can't do that? Like, that does not make me feel sorry for you as a character. That does not make me empathetic with you as a character. It makes me want to slap you as a character. It's like, come on, seriously, this is not. You can't do that. You can't be engaged or date or whatever it is they are. I don't remember. To somebody who is a police detective involved in a corrupt city and expect him to tell you everything. It's not even that he's trying to protect you. You don't have to protect me. I'm a strong woman or whatever. No, that's not even what it's about. It's about you proving that you obviously shouldn't be told secrets because the concept of secret is something that you can't even fathom. So I could rant probably for 20 minutes about this. I do plan on actually making a video on things I can't stand about what feminism has done to female characters in the name of trying to make female characters stronger and more independent and whatever. It's done some good things for it. Like, I don't mean to open a can of worms right now, but by and large, I think the effect has been very negative. And this is an example of it. And that character just needs to go away. Like, when she was threatening to leave, I was like, yes, please do. And please never come back. um, but, so that's probably more the downside, is something like that. Trying to think if there was something else I had in mind. Like I said, there are points in the show where, like right now, it's almost too complex. Where, like I said, or not that it's too complex, but I get into this thing when I really start to get invested in a show and really like it. I don't like it when they go a different direction than I would. I'm in my mind, oh, I would write it this way, and they start to write it this way, and the way they're going is valid and good. It's just not the way I would do it. So sometimes it's kind of like, oh no, do it this way. Things that the show needs to do. It needs to keep Batman in it. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Alfred. Not particularly a fan of Alfred. And it's not the actor. The actor actually does a great job. It's not even necessarily a whole lot of. It's that Alfred, in my mind, is unflappable. That's what he's that unflappable structure. And you could say, yeah, he's younger here. He's still learning. Yes, but that's not something you learn. That's like in my mind, that's a personality thing that you have. And Alfred had that thing. It's almost like making Batman not smart. You can do a lot of things with Batman. You can make him darker and edgier, like in the more recent trilogy. You can make him cheesy, like in the old Biff Pam, show. But you can't ever make him not smart. That's his character's integral on that, and it's contingent on it. And I think they've kind of done that with Alfred, where he isn't he's missing key components of what it is to be Alfred. While at the same time, that's a great character. Great character. They've done pretty well. This is like a minor quibble at this point because they've even started, I think, doing better with it. In the second episode, I was actually like, this might end the show for me if this guy can't pull it out. But he pulled it out, and it ended up going pretty well. So I want to see more Bruce Wayne. I would like to see less stupidness coming from certain female characters who apparently are not leaving. And they did kind of redeem her in this last episode. You can tell they're trying. Maybe they realized, oh, people really hate this character. Why? And that, if that's what happened, props for them that they were able to change and move forward. But I want the feel to stay the same. I hope this doesn't become too dark. It needs to. I think it needs to retain that slight edge of silliness, or otherwise it's just going to be too dark. I think that this show needs to include, or not fall into that fan service. If you're going to include characters like Enigma, have him do stuff, and he is, and it's good. Beyond that, the show's been really good. There's not much you can say. I have really enjoyed it. I understand it's not going to be for everybody, but it's definitely the kind of thing that I like watching. This is what made Batman so popular. This kind of thing with the people that he's popular with. This is the kind of show and the kind of feel that kept him relevant when Superman was just about punching something hard. And so I definitely think this is a great show. I would suggest that you go watch it if you haven't yet. I've spoiled a little bit for you, but definitely nothing that you probably wouldn't have seen coming anyway. And I will let you guys know what I think as the season ends. But right now, I'm not predicting anything other than praise if they keep it up. Alrighty, we'll see you guys later, and thanks for watching.